Hi, welcome everyone. I'm John Chalmers. I'm the Dean of Admissions here at New England. Thank you for coming to our next set of events we're running. These are going to be kind of specialized intros to different areas of this and aspects of the school. The first one is going to be this one, prosecution versus defense, and kind of learn a little bit more about criminal law in our program. And we're honored to have two great alumni here, Professor Hansen, joining us here as well. Lisa, can you take over now and run it from here?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, John. Hi, everyone. I'm Lisa Neary. I'm the Assistant Director of Admissions here at New England Law. I just want to thank everyone for joining us today. As Dean Chalmers said, we have Professor Vic Hansen joining us today, as well as Attorney Chris Gontarz and Attorney Paige Barton, who are both alum of New England Law. Professor Hansen, would you like to start off by introducing yourself and just giving a brief bio about yourself?
Okay, thank you very much, Lisa, and welcome all of you. Good to see so many of you here this morning or this afternoon. I hope you find this useful. It's good to see also my former student, Paige, here. And it's been a while since I've seen you. Good to see you, Paige. So just as a brief introduction, I've been teaching here at New England Law Boston for, I think I'm beginning my 16th year of teaching on the faculty. Areas that I teach are all related to criminal law matters. I teach criminal law, which is a basic introductory first year required course. I teach criminal procedure, which is currently a second year required course. I teach evidence, which is also a second year required course. And I teach an advanced criminal procedure class. And in the past, I've taught prosecutorial ethics and some criminal advocacy courses. I also coach our school mock trial team. And I guess what gives me the experience to do all of this criminal law related stuff is that in my prior career before joining the faculty here at New England, I served for 20 years in the military as a JAG officer. And as a JAG officer, I had the opportunity to do a lot of criminal law work, both as a prosecutor and then later in my career as a defense attorney. In those capacities, I got to try a lot of felony level cases and represent on the defense side senior officer clients who are being investigated for various crimes and indiscretions, as well as defending soldiers and supervising defense attorneys who are defending soldiers who are facing criminal prosecution. So I know we've couched this event here as a prosecution versus defense. I'm one of those that has had the opportunity to wear both hats at different points in my career, and including opportunity to do criminal or capital litigation work, both as a prosecuting attorney and as a defense attorney in the military context. So that's kind of my basic background. And Lisa, unless you want me to say more, I'll leave it at that for now, and then we can open it up to questions. Oh, I also should say, here on the faculty, I manage our criminal practice and procedure certificate program. And those of you who might be interested in focusing some of your education here in criminal law related areas, you would work with me in setting out your schedule so that you can have the opportunity to do a number of criminal law related classes and clinical experiences. And at the conclusion of your time as a student here, you would be awarded a criminal law certificate, practice and procedure certificate, which you certainly would appear on your transcript and would be something that you could show to potential employers about your experience and long-term commitment to criminal law related areas. So Lisa, back to you, unless there's something more you'd like me to say at the beginning here.
That's perfect. Thank you so much, Professor Hansen.
Sure.
And Chris, would you mind introducing yourself and giving us a brief background and bio about yourself and your career?
Certainly, thank you. First of all, thank you for inviting me. I always look forward to this. I'm one of the older graduates. I graduated 37 years ago from the law school. Before I went into the law school, I was a police officer. So I had, and before that, I was also in the military. Not a career, as the professor just said, but I served after getting a notice to be drafted after I graduated from college back in the 70s. So it's a different era. But so I went into law school a little bit older than most of my classmates. I had 10 years on them between the military and serving as a police officer. But I graduated from school in '84, and I was very fortunate. I went right into the Department of Attorney General in Rhode Island. And at that time, I was assigned to the Superior Court. And in Rhode Island, the Attorney General's office prosecutes all felonies, as opposed to, say, Massachusetts, where each county has their own prosecution. In Rhode Island, the Attorney General's office prosecutes all the felonies. So I was fortunate, and in the period of time that I worked as a prosecutor in the Attorney General's office, I tried approximately 50 jury trials. I also had 3 Supreme Court appeals that I did, and I had 6 convictions that were brought up on appeal after I left the office that were sustained. So I learned that experience very quickly. I left the Attorney General's office after a little bit more than 2.5 years, and have been in private practice as a criminal defense attorney for the last 34 years. In that period of time, I've represented some of the most notorious people in the state of Rhode Island. I've had many, I would say conservatively, I represented 10,000 clients over that period of time. They don't have capital punishment in Rhode Island per se as a death penalty, but they do have life without parole. I've done 4 life without parole cases. I also prosecuted 1 life without parole case. So I've experience in that area. And I've had experience on both sides, I can say that. And that's how I approach cases, and look forward to working with everybody today.
Thank you so much, Chris. And Paige, last but not least, if you'd like to introduce yourself and give us a brief bio and talk a little bit about your career and what you've done since you've been out of law school.
Sure, and thank you again for inviting me. I really look forward to answering any questions that I can and helping people however I'm able to. So please feel free to reach out. Again, my name is Paige Barton. As you can see from my mandatory work background here, I work for the DA's office in Worcester, Mass. I have been here for, it was 5 years in January, and I started off in the CDC, which is Central District Court, which is in District Court in Worcester. So they handle everything from OUIs to domestics to breaking and entering. I was there in CDC as just a general line prosecutor for 3 years. And then I was promoted to the Superior Court, where I have been for 2 years now. My specialized unit is sexual assaults and child abuse. So on a daily basis, I'm handling cases in the district courts in North County for what we call it, which is like Leominster, Fitchburg, and Clinton. And then I'm responsible to prepare those for indictment, to indict on my own cases, and then manage that caseload in Superior Court. So it's really exciting. I like it a lot. I'm happy to answer any questions specifically about that unit. It's been a lot in the past year with COVID, a lot of transition and getting everything on Zoom now. So we're able to meet with victims over Zoom. We're doing interviews with children over Zoom. So that's been a lot of logistical planning, but we have been able to get pretty much everything up and running that we were doing before. And now hopefully getting back into the jury trial schedule, which is going to be tough because people have been relaxing a bit. So I'll have to do a refresher for rules of evidence to get back into jury selection and things like that. But it looks like the summer and fall we're going to be able to get jurors back in the building, which is very exciting.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Paige. And Professor Hansen, I know that you spoke about you're leading the criminal law concentration or certificate program. Could you talk a little bit about more of what that entails, what types of classes students would be taking, and when they start kind of honing in on whatever practice area they're looking at practicing in the future?
Sure. So to begin with, the good news is you all are going to be taking 3 of the required courses that are part of the certificate program: criminal law first year required course, criminal procedure second year required course, and evidence is second year required course. Those are all fundamental courses. that all students take regardless of what areas they might be interested in ultimately practicing. Um, but you should also know that in your first year, you will have the opportunity to meet with an assigned faculty advisor who can help you, even though your first year courses are pretty much well, not pretty much, they are dictated for you as in most law schools. But during your first year, you'll have the opportunity to sit down with faculty advisors and start carving out what you might be interested in later courses in your second and subsequent years. And they can provide you some advice on how to select courses for your second and third year. In addition, our webpage has a really important link that I would encourage you all to avail yourself of. It's the Pathways to the Professions link. And within that link, you can highlight various specialties, including the criminal law specialty. Click on that and it'll show you kind of a hierarchy of classes that you can take over the course of your time here as a student to get you additional experience in criminal law related matters. So the conversation about, course selection and career paths begins in the first year. Typically then, any students who are interested in doing criminal law or criminal law related focus, I typically, as well as the other criminal law professors on the faculty, will often meet with those students either as groups or individuals, formally or informally, to talk about course selections, about clinical opportunities that you want to avail yourself of. We have a really robust clinic program here at New England where you are assigned to work in either the public defender's office in Massachusetts, we call that CPCSCS, or a district attorney's office, typically Suffolk or Middlesex County, which are the local jurisdictions here, where you would work alongside prosecutors, defense attorneys, and you receive a certification that actually allows you to go into court and stand up on cases, make arguments, and we've even had students as clinical students be able to try cases like DUI and other minor misdemeanor cases. So we're all about giving you those kinds of practical experiences. In addition to the required courses for the criminal law certificate, you will take some more advanced courses. Advanced criminal procedure is a required course. It's required that you do have some of these experiential learning opportunities, whether it's a clinic, whether it's competing on the mock trial team, something that gives you some practical courtroom experience. And in addition, we have a list of electives from which you can select 2 or 3 electives over the course of your time here that are criminal law focused, such as a course on prosecutorial ethics or defense attorney ethics or trial advocacy or other criminal law related elective courses that then you would complete over your time here. And once you've completed those, you simply make an application through me for the criminal procedure certificate. So, and we have a lot of course offerings that give you a lot of flexibility over your time here to kind of work on those certificates while you're also taking other important courses. I think probably everybody, all of us who've been invited to speak today will probably say criminal law is the most important, maybe the only area of law, but we realize that's probably really not true. And there's other bar exam courses you may need to take and other exposure you may need to have. So the good news is you can do this criminal law certificate program, but you're not putting at expense some of the other important classes that you need to take here. So we help you kind of balance all of that out over your time, through faculty advice, through meeting with me and others to help plan and chart out your time.
Thank you so much, Professor Hansen. Chris, I know that you said that you worked at the Attorney General's office and then you shifted gears and now you're doing criminal defense work, private criminal defense work. Can you talk a little bit about what helped make your decision to shift gears from prosecuting to being a criminal defense attorney?
Certainly. There was a change of administration. In Rhode Island, and as in most states, the Attorney General is elected, and the prosecutors assigned to the office are considered non-classified. That is, they don't have any union protection, they don't have a contract, they're at-will employees. So there was a change in administration, and they tend to hire their own staff that they want to have work with them. But I'll be quite candid in saying that I was also at the point where I wanted to go out and start to practice law and do a little more than just the criminal work as the professor has been speaking about. So I started out, I was for 20 years, excuse me, for 30 years, I had a partner and we did a lot of, we were general practice of law in that I did a lot of criminal work, but I also did some probate work. I did very little family court work. I did some business work. I also developed, I did a lot of work now in ethics. I am on the Supreme Court, Rhode Island Supreme Court Ethics Advisory Panel. I was also on this Rhode Island Supreme Court Judges Panel. So that we, I wanted to expand my practice at the same time, but so I left the Attorney General's office, but with my background, I concentrated on criminal cases, but still did other work.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Chris. And Paige, I just wanted to know, I know a lot of people, I went into law school thinking that I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And then summer after my first year, took an internship and realized that wasn't at all what I wanted to do. So when you got into law school, did you go in knowing that this is what you wanted to do? Or what did your path look like a little bit? Was that a smooth path for you, or did you have other interests, or how did you get to where you are now?
So that's an interesting question. I've had a lot of interns through the DA's office over the years, and a lot of people ask that same question: is how did you get here? Is this something you always knew you wanted? And for me, it was very easy. Might not be the same way for everyone, but my grandfather was a Worcester police officer. So my dad said that I was born with like a John Wayne complex. And I've always just been this way. I mean, I don't know. I have majored in political science and communications in undergrad with the intent to either go into government or law school or something of that nature. So I went to law school and really only considered criminal law. In the first semester, I was like, what is torts and contracts and civ pro? This is not what I want. Why am I here? I was like, I don't know, like I just didn't expect there to be so many other paths that I hadn't even considered, because I was like so focused on doing criminal law. So I did try some other things just to get some experience. So I worked my second and third year at Clean Harbors doing, I was an intern for our in-house counsel, which was very interesting. And that was a lot of civil litigation. And that was great. Nothing against that. I found myself in that internship looking up the news and caring more about the cases that I was reading about and wanting to go back into that world, because I had interned at the DA's office the summer of my 1L year. So that was really what I was drawn to. And after 2L and 3L year, I think it's interesting. Your path will kind of find you. You'll know the cases the work that you want to do first. So the homework, I always wanted to do my crim law reading first, or my crim pro reading first, and then civ pro or whatever else was last. So you kind of prioritize what you're interested in, and you can tell, like, they're the classes you want to speak up in, they're the things you want to learn more about, they're the people that you surround yourself with. So I think some people will switch in law school when they find some other things, but it will become clear to you what your passions are and what motivates you. So when I came to the DA's office, it was pretty much what I expected. I would highly recommend interning in whatever field you're interested in, because it's, in theory and in practice, they're very different. So the things you're going to learn in your crim law class versus what we do any given day at the DA's office are worlds apart sometimes. So definitely, whatever you can do to get into a courtroom or get into a law office, I would suggest doing that as early as possible, even that summer after your 1L year, just so you can see, maybe you will hate this, or maybe this is exactly what you expected. But either way, it's better to find out earlier than later, and then maybe change some of your courses depending on what your experience was like, or if you want to maybe find some other avenue that you're going to want to try to go down and get some experience in, maybe real estate or something else that you maybe hadn't considered at the beginning.
Perfect. And while you were in school, so like Professor Hansen was saying, your first year, all of your classes are set in stone for you, regardless of where you're attending law school. When you got into your second and third year and you were able to take some electives, Did you take any electives that were criminal law focused, or were you focused more on taking classes that were tested on the bar? Or what was your strategy for classes in your second and third year?
Is this directed for me?
It is, Paige, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's a good question too. So I was very focused on the bar prep related classes, but I did take negotiations, which was amazing. And I still use a lot of that today. That was just a great class. And just in terms of being a lawyer in general, those are skills that you need to have. But I did take the government lawyer clinic, and I was placed with the AG's office. And I was actually in the cyber crimes unit there, which was wonderful. And that was for course credit. So I was able to go to the AG's office, I think it was twice a week, for 3 hours or so, and work for one of the assistant attorney generals and get a ton of experience and still have that count as a course. So you're not even cutting into, your summer internship or any other time. You're able to do that during the day and get credit, which was awesome. And that was something that I did to kind of further pursue criminal law. And then I think some of the other courses were just the required, like Crim Pro 1 and 2, and the general like bar prep classes that like wills and things that you want to be prepared for, so that when you study for the bar, it's not that you're learning it for the first time.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Paige.
Sure.
Professor Hansen, I know you touched a little bit on the mock trial teams at New England Law. Can you elaborate a little bit on that and the different types of mock trial teams that we have available and what types of experience that would give to students?
Sure. So we have a number of different moot court / mock trial competitions that the school participates in, and these competitions are kind of extracurricular, meaning that you're competing against other schools in various different competitions. So we have a number of what are referred to as moot court competitions. We have one in environmental law, we have one in tax law, we have one in intellectual property law. Typically, in the past, we've had in international law, in constitutional law. And those competitions are coached by usually 1 or 2 professors, full-time and or adjunct professors here at the school. And we also have a client counseling competition, I should say, as well. Other than the client counseling competition, the other ones are not available for you as a first-year student. As I'm sure Paige would say, and even Chris will probably remember, and I vaguely remember, your first year of law school, you really want to make your focus your classes and getting that fundamental educational experience. So we don't want you to be distracted with too many other things. But after your first year, kind of the range of these opportunities open up for you, and you can try out for one of these competitions. Each competition will have its own tryout process. But if you are selected for the team, you'll represent the school. Now, most of the mock trial competitions are in the form of an appellate advocacy type competition, meaning that a team of students will prepare a written brief, an appellate brief on a particular issue, on an environmental law issue, an international law issue, something like that. And then they will submit the written brief, they will be judged on the written brief, and then they will do oral arguments on the brief, like you might see in a Supreme Court or an appellate court argument, where they're being questioned by a panel of judges on particular points in their brief. Now, the competition that I actually coach is a little bit different. It's the only one that's actually a trial level competition. So this is not appellate advocacy. This is actually trying a case. So every year it alternates between a criminal case and a civil case. I do an in-school competition every fall to select the 6 students that will represent the school in our team. We usually put forward 2 teams in this competition. We compete against all the schools here in the region, and we're given a kind of a closed universe of facts, 2 witnesses for the prosecution, 2 witnesses for the defense, and then the teams basically prepare the case, their direct opening statements, direct questioning, cross-examination, closing arguments. And somewhat challenging about this competition is you represent both sides. So, for example, during the competition on a Thursday, you might be representing the prosecution and trying a case for the prosecution. Then you'll turn around Friday and represent the same case, but you're representing the defense side of the case. So it really causes you to be very flexible in your thinking and dynamic in your arguments and seeing the issue from more than one side. And we have a really a really excellent team. Every year we've competed very well. We take down some of the big names every year. I always have great satisfaction when we beat Harvard and Yale and those other schools in this competition, which we routinely do. And it's a really excellent experience for students, and something that they put on their resumes. And I've had a number of students who have been in the mock trial competitions who at the end of the competition have had some of the individuals, attorneys who served as judges in the competition, reach out to them for their name, their contact information, their resume, and job offers have come from there. And I think a great number of my former students who are in this competition are peppered throughout the various DAs and CPCS offices in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So, and they will typically refer back to this mock trial competition as probably one of the pinnacles of their preparation to be a trial attorney. So we put a lot of resources, a lot of effort, full-time faculty support in these competitions.
Professor Hansen, do you tend to notice that most of the students who participate in the mock trial or moot court competitions, are they primarily students who are interested in criminal law, or do they have other varying interests as well?
It can vary. It doesn't have to be criminal law. Certainly for my competition, most of the students who do this competition have an interest in trial work, whether it's civil or criminal, or like in Chris's experience, probably have done a little bit of both. But they're in court. They use this experience to kind of develop and leverage their understanding of the trial dynamic and what it's like to try cases and the like. But certainly students with all range of interests will try out for these various competitions. And so you don't have to be particularly interested in one area of law in order to apply. But certainly I would say that the significant number of the students who do the mock trial competition are interested in doing litigation, either civil or criminal or both, when they finish law school.
Perfect. It looks like, Professor Hansen, we have a question for you.
Okay.
A student is asking, do students typically participate in only one competition, or do they participate in multiple throughout their law school career, or can they?
Yeah, that's a good question. And some of this becomes a function of time, right? So, you also have your full load of classes. You do get a couple of credits for competing in these various competitions. But oftentimes it's just a matter of what students can balance in their time. Typically, I will usually, for example, select some students to be on the mock trial team who are 2L students. And once I select them as a 2L student, they will typically stay on for both years as a 2L student and a 3L student, or evening students up to their 4th year evening student. I have a student now who will be coming back for her 3rd year on the team because she's an evening student. They're here a year longer, so she's on the team for a year longer. But oftentimes it's hard to do simultaneous competitions because just the way that most of these competitions run, they typically have their events in February. So it'd be really challenging to be prepping for your international law moot court competition at the same time you're simultaneously preparing for your mock trial competition. So it's unlikely that you're gonna have the time to do both of those things simultaneously.
That totally makes sense. And I know that a lot of incoming students are very eager to get involved in things as quickly as they can. Can 1L students participate in any of these competitions, or are these primarily for 2L and 3L students? Okay,
so with regard to the client counseling is a competition that is available for first year students to compete in. The other competitions, particularly my competition, I'm always looking for 1L volunteers to come in and serve as witnesses for different practice rounds, for the tryouts, and actually for when the event is hosted in Boston, which it is every other year, we provide witnesses for the event. So 1L students certainly participate as witnesses. That kind of gives them a flavor of what they can expect. But other than the client competition, the client counseling competition, the other actual mock trial moot court competitions are reserved for upper division students, again, primarily for the reason that you'll find that your first year your time is amply taken up with your first year studies, to say the least. And so you probably don't want to be getting too many other things on your plate while you're trying to get that foundation of the first year.
Perfect. And we have a student who's asking, are these opportunities available for part-time students as well, or only for full-time students?
All of these opportunities, including the clinical opportunities, including internships, are available. We make a really strong effort to make sure that all of our programs are available for all students, regardless of whether they're full or part-time, day or evening. I will say that particularly for evening students who may be working full-time, it may require a greater degree of flexibility on your part, or perhaps your employer's part, particularly if you wanted to do a clinic or something like that during your law school career, but it can be done, and it is done regularly. I know for the law review, for other student organizations, for mock trial, moot court, it's routine that we have both day and evening full and part-time students who are involved in those events.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Professor Hansen. And now a question for Chris. Chris, I know after, as your 1L year is starting to wrap up, and even before even starting law school, people are already thinking about internships for the summer after their 1L year. If you're looking to hire interns, what are some qualities or some things on their resume that you're looking for in interns?
We look for student, off my firm, Lynch and Pine, that I work for. They're both former attorney generals in the state of Rhode Island, and everybody in the office is an ex-prosecutor. We do, I'd say 90% of our work is criminal defense work. So we're looking for students that are obviously interested in that area of the law. Also, we're looking for students who want to learn. I think that's so important, and let me expound on that for a little bit. Before the pandemic, which is, I have to phrase it that way, we were in court. Everybody in our office was in court every day. That's what we do. We're in court, and it's not like television court where you see, in a half an hour or 45 minutes, you're going to see a case get resolved. Cases take time, especially complex criminal cases. And they take time for preparing them, and they take time to try them. And so what we would look for is someone who feel comfortable, assisting one of the lawyers in, preparing a case for a trial, or preparing a case for a plea, or doing research, or writing a memo if necessary. And that's one of the things that we look for. The other is we're looking for someone who has an interest in being in a courtroom. And let me explain again what I mean by that. A lot of attorneys that I interact with don't want to be in a courtroom, and you can, for a lot of different reasons, but they don't feel comfortable being in there. They don't feel comfortable speaking on their feet. They don't feel comfortable, especially in a criminal matter, if you lose, the consequences that what could happen to your client, or as Paige can tell you, the victory of what happens when they proceed and your client's incarcerated. So you've got to have that. And that's one of the things that we don't screen people for, but you very quickly you'll find that who feels comfortable in a courtroom like that. I would tell you candidly that the vast majority of the cases that I have get referred to me by other attorneys who I've dealt with over my, the 3.5 decades that I've been practicing law, who don't do criminal work, who have a client who say, hey, can you talk to this person for us? We don't do this type of work. And on the same hand, I do the same thing with clients now, where I have clients that want probate matters handled, or whatever other type of work that they do. So again, we're looking for someone who's interested in the type of work that we do specifically.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Chris. And Paige, I know a lot of incoming students have heard all kinds of stories about what their first year of law school will be like. And some are wanting to know if they'll have time for extracurricular activities or hobbies, things like that, or if it will just be school all the time. Maybe you can talk a little bit about how you managed your time, and if you were able to still participate in hobbies or extracurricular things that you really enjoyed.
Yeah, that's a good question. I know there's a lot of anxiety around the first year of law school, and my short answer to that is there's no time for anything else. you're reading more than you can even fathom. There's so much reading. But I would say start out expecting to only do school. So you're going to spend most of your day either in the library reading for class or being in class. You'll have obviously some time, but I would say plan to just focus on school. If you can handle that and you have like a minute to eat dinner and like get some sleep, then figure out if there's time to do other things. I lived at home, so I commuted from Northborough, which was like an hour and 15-minute commuter rail each way, which I kind of built that into like, I would read on the train into school and I would read on the train home from school. So I use that as some time to study, but it obviously totally depends on your schedule. Some people have families, some people are coming from further away, some people do not. So whatever works for you, you obviously know what your availability is like more than I do, but I would say plan to just focus on that. Law school is very different from college. And then in college, I was in 1,000 clubs. I was in a sorority. I worked at the study abroad office. I gave tours. School was like, I don't want to say my least like time commitment, but I was doing so many other things. And I think a lot of people want to immerse themselves with the community, and that's wonderful, but it is a very different academic experience than undergrad. It is very challenging in that you need to really commit to reading everything, briefing, preparing your cases. Your classes are not like, let me take notes and move on. You're getting called on every day. So you need to have an answer. You need to know what the cases are about. You need to know the holdings. You need to know why it's significant. So it's just a totally different way of learning. So I would say that will take up a lot of your mental energy, at least the first couple months. So if you want like another job, I did work at a restaurant my 1L year, but only like 1 or 2 days a week. So I would say if you are doing some extracurriculars, I would keep it very minimal until you have a better understanding of how long it's going to take you to prepare for your classes and get, your personal commitments to be able to handle all of those things. And then, maybe if you do have some more time in the spring semester, you can take on a little bit more.
So Lisa, if you wouldn't mind, I'm just going to jump in here a little bit on that point. Obviously, as a professor, I would say, oh, you should be doing nothing but reading, and you should actually just be reading my subject areas and not worry about anybody else's. But of course, that's not true either. I would tell you, though, we have a really excellent academic support program here at the school. Certainly probably different than when Chris went to law school, when I went to law school. And my guess, even when Paige was here a few years ago, our current academic support program was somewhat more nascent than it is now. But we have a really robust academic support program that is designed to help you in your first year, particularly in your first semester of your first year, not only in learning the subjects that you're learning, but also learn how to be a law student, learn how to study, learn how to take notes, learn how to prepare for exams, learn how to prepare for assessments like quizzes and the like that you'll see in your first year courses, how to budget your time, some very practical, very specific things that can help you. I know, back when I went, it was sink or swim. You had one exam at the end of the year, if you passed it, great. If you didn't, go find another career kind of a thing. Law school, thankfully, has moved away from that model to, I think, a much more useful and effective model, and a recognition that it is a transition from your undergraduate experience. So we need, in fairness to you, you're making a commitment to us, you're making a commitment of time and effort to the school, a commitment of money and all of those things. We have a commitment to you to help you prepare to be good law students. And I would really encourage every one of you to avail yourselves of those programs that are available for you in the first year. Because I can't stress enough how important that first year fundamental learning is. As Paige said, when she got into a class on civil procedure, she's like, I don't want to learn about civil procedure. I want to learn about murders and robbery and all the good, juicy criminal law stuff. But the reality is, kind of the little secret of the first year of law school is it almost doesn't matter what subjects you're learning. What you're really learning in the first year is how to develop a new way of thinking, of analyzing, of being critical, of writing, of organizing. And those are just fundamental skills. As I know Chris will say in his many, many years of practice, what makes a lawyer a successful lawyer, regardless of the area of practice, is, those solid fundamental skills of communication, of analysis, and being able to think in very critical ways. And that's what the first year is really all about. And it takes time and effort to learn that way of thinking.
Thank you, Professor Hansen. I know a lot of incoming students prior to starting their fall semester of their first year will ask, what can I do to prepare for my first year of law school? What can I do over the summer to prepare for my 1L year? Professor Hansen, any suggestions or anything that students can do to better prepare themselves for their first year of law school?
Yes, go to the beach, read trashy novels, clear your mind, have some fun, and just kind of get some of that out of your system so that you're rested and ready. And then come August, we will reach out to you. I know the admissions folks will reach out to you with some additional assignments that you'll have for orientation, for the week of orientation, and take those seriously, take those as an introduction. But don't spend June and July as a quasi student. Spend June and July getting moved in, getting settled, getting your affairs in order, so that when school starts in August, you've got everything else ready. So you don't have distractions. So you're not still trying to find a place. So you're not, all these other parts of your life are settled and you feel kind of prepared logistically for law school. So that mid of August comes and you see one of us your first day of class and we cold call on you. You're like, okay, here we go, and you're ready for it. So that would be my advice, is be rested and ready.
Thank you so much, Professor Hansen. I'd like to open it up now for questions. If any of you have any questions for any of our three guests, definitely feel free to either raise your hand or you can type it in the chat and I can read it off to our guests. And if not, then I will just ask a couple of more questions before we wrap up our event for today. Chris, so this question is for you. If you had to give incoming students one piece of advice, if they are absolutely positive that either they want to go into prosecution or criminal defense, what would you tell them would be something that would set them up for success in the future, other than having those foundational skills like Professor Hansen was just talking about?
Pass the bar exam. And I mean, Professor Hansen remembers this from when we did this before. And I've said this, and I participate in a lot of events as an alumni of the school for a variety of reasons, one of which is I'm very proud of it. But second of all, I owe it to the school because they gave me a career. I didn't really mention this earlier, but I took a flyer in law school. I had a 14-month-old son and a day-old daughter that was in a hospital with my wife, and I went back to the hospital and told them if I quit my job, I'm going to law school. You have to go back to work. And, I've been married 45 years. I put and I'm still slugging here. But the school has given me the opportunity to do that. And the one piece of advice I would give any incoming student, and Paige mentioned this a little bit, but I would stress this: learn to budget your time. It's the most important thing that I can share with you is, and at least in my case, I also raised these children during the daytime when my wife was working and went to school at night. So I had, I was juggling a lot of stuff, but you have to set aside blocks of time, at least I did, to read. You have to do that. You can't wing law school. Maybe you can now, but I knew that I couldn't. You had to sit there and read. And, unfortunately, he's now dead, but Jeremiah F.X. Healy was a contracts professor when I was in school. And he thought he was like Kingsford. He thought he was, he was gonna, and he loved the Socratic method. And they would just have you stand up, and you had to have read the case and know what you're talking about, or you would really be, you know about it. Trust me. And that's the advice I would give you. Please learn to block your time and study. It's not going to, you're not going to get it through absorption. You have to get it through reading.
Thank you, Chris. Professor Hansen, I have a question for you. What are some ways that students can succeed and stand out in their law school classes?
Well, I think as Chris and Paige have articulated, in terms of success, I think it's doing these, you've got to put the time in. There's just no shortcut for putting time in. And, you know, I think one of the things that actually makes New England a unique place, both to be here as a student, as a faculty member. Yeah, law school is a competitive endeavor, but there can be mean competitive and there can be collegial competitive. And I think we define ourselves as an institution that is collegially competitive. It's not like I'm going to step on the back of my classmate to get ahead. I think one of the things you should do in trying to assess success and setting yourself up as a student and setting yourself up for success is have a clear vision of defining your own success. I think you have to be careful not to compare yourself with others. I think that, you know, there's always the post-mortem after that first law school exam everybody's in the hallway talking about, and then somebody says, well, I answered the whole question on this issue, and everybody else said, I didn't even see that issue, and then everybody thinks they failed the exam and all that stuff.
Oh.
You got to just stay away from all of that. Define your,
PTSD.
you know, how to stand out. I think embrace it, embrace the opportunity. I really appreciate what Chris says. I had 2 kids that went to New England Law, and they're both practicing attorneys. One's a prosecutor in Texas, one does employment law here in Massachusetts. And, you know, this gave them the opportunity to set out on a career, and they embraced it when they were here. They were involved in law review, they did moot court, they did other activities, they took a full range of classes and clinics. And so, you know, in terms of how you stand out, I mean, your grades might, you know, you might just, you know, rise to the top in terms of grades because of your performance, and that's great. We recognize and we award students and reward students for, you know, raising to the top of the class, but that is not the only, or in my opinion, even the most important definition of success as a law student. You define your own terms of success, and what I think you have to come to see this as is just an enormously amazing opportunity. The one time in your life where you get to be about you. Like Chris, I went back to law school after being out of undergraduate for a while. I had 3 kids. My youngest was born when I was a 1L student. And so I saw this as one time in my life where I could dedicate the time and effort to prepare myself for a career. And I think if you see it in that kind of an opportunity, embrace that opportunity, then you're going to get out of law school what you want to get out of it. And, you know, whether you fall in the rankings and the standings, top of your class, middle of your class, whatever, I think that's less important ultimately for your success. So long as Chris says, you pass the bar. You can't be a lawyer until you pass the bar. So you got to do that.
Thank you, Professor Hansen. I think Paige had something to add.
I had one, so that just made me think of something, just to kind of echo that message, something that no one tells you, but I'll tell you now so that you'll know. Your reputation in law school defines much of your legal career, and people don't really travel too far away. So a lot of people that I went to law school with in Boston are now lawyers throughout Massachusetts. So when I'll get a call from someone who's a defense attorney in the Cape, and I'll have, you know, they'll be coming up and I have a case with them, and they're going to remember what you were like in law school. And especially if you're in private practice, people will recommend you based on what they remember of you from law school. So if you're the person in law school that's helping and like a smiling face and someone that people can rely on for notes if they're sick, then that's something people will take advantage of and pay it forward when they can down the road. And I think that definitely is something that's unique about New England law. There's other law schools that I toured or researched, and that did not seem to be the same environment there. So lean on each other, and that's another way that you'll survive your 1L year. You'll make great friends. I have best friends from law school that we're still in touch to this day. So it's not just this terribly scary, you have to read, you're gonna get called on every day. I mean, there's that, but you're also all in it together. So that really, I think, combines to have a really like special and unique experience in law school. But use the people around you. You guys are all in the same classes. You can study together, look at each other's notes, maybe break up some of the readings. And I think that that's something that we kind of left out, but I just wanted to make sure that we talked about that a little bit, because you're not in it alone, and that's definitely something that can help you get through.
Very good advice. Thank you so much, Paige. Professor Hansen, Chris, do either of you have any final comments for incoming students that you'd like to add?
I'll just add one quick note, which is if any of the students want to, they can get my email address from you, and they can feel free to contact me if they want to discuss anything. I'll gladly spend some time speaking to them, okay?
Perfect. Thank you so much, Chris. And I've put my email address in the chat, so if anyone has any questions or wants to get a hold of anyone, you can reach out to me directly. Professor Hansen, any final words for our incoming students?
No, just we look forward to seeing you on campus in August, and look forward to seeing you all as students down the road. Welcome.
Perfect. Well, thank you to all of our incoming students for joining us today. We really appreciate it. And a huge thank you to Professor Hansen, Chris Gontarz, and Paige Barton for joining us today. We really appreciate you guys all taking time out of your busy schedules. And to all of you incoming students, stay tuned for our upcoming events. We have a few more interest area sessions coming up. So watch the Facebook group and your emails. And please reach out to us if you guys have any questions. All right, everyone, have a wonderful day today. Thank you.
Thank you.